diligently, as you don't know, working hard in the lab. I got a sibling with me doing science. Tar, what it do, sibling? Welcome back and black to the broadcast. What it do?
Yeah, true peace, man. I'm glad to be here. You know, every time we come together, it's always something big going on. Cause it takes months and months. You know, you've been pretty busy on the board, man. I've been seeing that, trying to stay within the realm of things. What's been popping? What's going on?
This Harrison, this culture, freedom, and righteousness. You know, diligently working hard, exploring this human experience. I tell you what I've been dealing with. Flipping, I can't send international stuff because there's all kind of strikes for Royal Mail, which is like our version of your, you know, postal service kind of thing. It's crazy.
What's the reason for that?
In essence, to do a micro bills, it was a governmental Royal Mail, as it states, was a government-run and backed company in the late 80s, I think it was, or early 90s. They privatized it and made it, you know, they privatized the electricity, the gas, and the postal services. So now we've got corporations who control that. And over the years, Royal Mail has been sold like 3 or 4 times to these different corporations. And they're just they're just making them do more and more and more and more stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, here's an example. First class stamps, and I'm a stamp collector, not so much now, but historically I was a stamp collector. I got all kind of stamps, and especially I used to, you know, definitely keep a track on the UK stamps and all that.
Okay.
First class stamp would cost us, let's go back to like 90s, you're looking like 17 pence, 18 pence. First class stamps now, sibling, I couldn't even tell you, they're probably about just under £1 or something like that. £1.
And a pound is how much in American dollars?
A dollar plus. Because the pound's weak now, it's probably only about like $1.10 or something like that. But in the good old days, it would be like $3. So they've messed it up. So then the employees, they're doing more work for less money. So they were picketing, I think it was like November, December kind of time. They were picketing, no work, strikes. And as a result, they got a huge backlog of parcels, especially international parcels to deliver. So now they've come out with a thing saying, yo, we've had a cyber attack. And as a result of this cyber attack, we can't post out nothing, sibling.
So you say that's like $1?
Well, no, that's just no. That is just for an envelope to get posted. For me, when I'm shipping internationally to where you are, the wilderness, North America, I can pay anywhere up to $20 plus.
Okay, because they're saying here international postcards is $1.40. Just off a postcard or a stamp.
Yeah. They're taking liberties, man. So I'm delayed. I'm majorly delayed with all international shipments and all that there. So apologies all. You know, I've put it out there. As soon as that is rectified, all parcels will be going out. Yeah, no. Nice. But outside of that, man, everything sibling, you know. Cannot complain at all. All wise and civilized, as they say.
Sheesh. Yeah, I mean, last time I heard about anything dealing with something to that was when Trump was in, when they was getting closer to the, you know, the voting and stuff, and they had a big thing about, because he was putting it out there that they was gonna do some, you know, fish business with the mail and you know the Democrats were trying to do this, you know, the mail-in ballots, and you didn't have to have no ID. They was, you know, you could tell that was cheating off the rip, and they was finding all types of people voting in empty houses. You know, they was catching some of these dudes on the West Coast driving going places, just dumping them off somewhere. It was a whole hot mess. So they was trying to really stop the mail for a while. They've been attacking the mail for the past couple of years, and because they trying to do this whole digital push.
Yes.
So that is what they really doing, man. That dude Charles Schwab that German dude is sick. He's insane. I know y'all is hearing about them over there.
Yes. Not on the mainstream in regards to all the mainstream media. They ain't pumping any kind of real scrutiny. It's all positive in it.
Wow.
Wonderful Charles Schwab. Wonderful Bill Gates. Wonderful flipping Justin Trudeau. Everyone's blessed.
The only person that's really being attacked in the news over here is Hunter Biden, Fauci.
Fauci's being attacked in the news.
Yeah, over here. Yeah, they ain't going hard, but what they do is since they all been going to court over the last couple of months. You won't know unless it's some people that really, really keep up that you can hear about on Instagram. But then you'll see the news clip, and they'll show that he was being questioned about the gain of function and all.
Hundreds of pages of documents from inside Tony Fauci's agency, the National Institute of Health, were published by the news outlet The Intercept. They confirm that, get this, Tony Fauci's NIH funded what's known as gain of function research. There's that term again. In Wuhan, there's that city again. Gain of function research includes any research that makes viruses more transmissible and more deadly. According to the documents obtained by The Intercept, the NIH was specifically funding gain of function research to spike the genes from one coronavirus with the genetic information from other coronaviruses in the process. The documents reveal the researchers created a new, more potent virus that could easily infect humans. What could go wrong? Gary Ruskin, the executive director of the group, U.S. Right to Know, says the documents are, quote, a roadmap to the high-risk research that could have led to the current pandemic, close quote.
Further calling into question the honesty and whether Fauci testified truthfully to Congress. And I don't think it's any coincidence that after those types of disclosures, Fauci is telling the media that he plans to retire at the end of the Biden administration. Further, in my view, confirming he is a political operative as opposed to an apolitical government employee. Why would he tie his retirement to the end of a presidential term other than by frankly confirming that he's there for political reasons and not scientific reasons, as he constantly and in my view falsely asserts.
Other stuff. So we getting some acknowledgement of the crimes that they pulling right now. Though they I don't know if you don't have it. I got the Epstein, what her name, Ghislaine Maxwell, when she went to court. I got that whole thing. It's like 2,000 pages. I can email it to you if you ain't got it.
Yes. The transcript you're talking about. The cross-examination. Yeah, but I would definitely mind reading that. Yeah, most definitely.
So make sure you give me your email and I'll get that to you, because it's a lot of names on there. I'm just taking my time reading because it's a lot. That was something that about time that was about to come out. All of these train fake accident derailments they going ham.
50 of the cars in this massive train derailed Friday, 20 of them carrying hazardous materials as flames lit up the sky in northeastern Ohio, according to the NTSB.
They're requesting an engine, tanker, ladder truck, and any available manpower.
Some 2,000 residents, nearly half of East Palestine, still under evacuation orders. Visitors told to stay away.
It's still a very volatile situation.
The smoke so thick it could be seen from this weather radar.
And with that, it was like 3 or 4. Well, I know it was 3, I think, maybe in Ohio. Then another building that was 70 miles away exploded. I think Texas had some kind of accident. Then Texas got hit with a meteor. They didn't. Yes, a meteor crashed in Texas. Some plastic plant in Florida is on fire right now.
What about some Detroit? I hear like a train derailed in Detroit or something.
Something happened in Detroit too. I even seen on Instagram where a person, a train was coming at night and a camera caught it. They actually parked the car right in front of the train that was coming and got out and let the train hit it, but it didn't cause the train to derail, but they was trying. So it looks like the game over here is like, I guess what you would call the so-called good guys in the background is allowing things to be done, but they're filming it and then they're leaking certain things out into the public. And so right now they just like trying to, I guess, wake the American people up, but they're not, like I said, they still being patient. See, the thing is, what people don't realize is that religion being a spell of different sorts, a lot of people will still be like, okay, I'm gonna wait because God is gonna not let this happen, but they keep overlooking the fact that it's already done happened. A bunch of happenings done got to this point to where you seeing it. So people is really like being more patient with these spirit forces who are actually keeping them stagnant. Now the thing with what happened on the 6th last year, I think that whenever the January 6th thing happened, what that was January 6th, 2021, right?
Yeah. 21.
So when you look at everything that took place with that, those people understood the assignment and they knew what the government was doing. And the only thing, you can do is and see now people now who thought that those people was out of their mind versus the people now who are now see what we seeing now is what those people and people like myself who was doing research and watching behind the scenes knew that everything that was going on with the election and all this other stuff, these people is doing all types of crime against humanity. But now America, now they're seeing these things happen like on a regular. It's just they still having patience, but they're getting upset. But longer somebody come through, it's like they get back pacified. And China's doing a whole lot over here. China is buying up land close to military Air Force bases. They doing all types of stuff. And Biden is like looking the other way, like he don't even see that happening. When they question him about it, he got like he don't know what they're talking about.
Look, you don't know what they're talking about most of the time, unless he's got the prom cards and stuff. But go ahead.
Heritage Foundation Senior Fellow for China Strategy. He is the author of The 100-Year Marathon, China's Secret Strategy to Replace America as the Global Superpower, which, by the way, is a must-read. It's an excellent book. Michael Pillsbury is here. Michael, thanks very much for joining us this morning. First, your reaction to Lydia Hu's report. I want to get your take on all of China, communist China's actions, but we'll start with this power grab and land grab to buy land right near our military installations.
Right, it's a very important subject, and it's a good example of a larger problem. Here, an individual senator gets a letter from the Air Force very late in the game, trying to head off the purchase of this land. What obviously has to happen, and this was known at least a year ago, if not 2 years ago, there needs to be a law passed by both houses, signed by the president, monitoring this or saying it cannot be done if it's so many hundreds of miles away from an Air Force base, but there's no action by Congress. You'll notice the letter you put up from the Air Force is really chilling. The Air Force warning an individual senator, this will hurt the U.S. Air Force if you allow this to happen. That's not the way policy is made. A letter doesn't stop anything. There has to be legal action taken. It has to become a crime, for example, to do some of the things that are being done to help China in our country. There's no sign that's happening at all. That's what concerns me the most, Maria.
Yeah, and there are so many concerns. It does not feel like this administration is serious about holding China to account. I mean, we've got Navy divers this morning recovering debris from the Chinese spy flight. It was shot down on the coast of South Carolina on Saturday, as you know. But this administration has successfully tried to change the conversation. They're trying to change the conversation from the enormity of what we have just witnessed, that a spy flight was flying throughout the middle of America for up to a week.
Going back to the religion elements of it,
Right.
outside of the religion element of it, let's look at the new form of religion, which is like scientism and you know, governmentalism. Like, people have more faith, you know, again, taking the power away from themselves and putting externalizing it in a governmental force, in science itself, because the science is going to explain everything. All we need to do is this, and then it's going to be all right, you know.
Well,
So you've got many elements of people taking the power from the internal and making it an external thing, which they're gonna take care of the problem for us.
well, that's because you got to understand, you know, in Noon we talk about is cycles, right? And you had moon cycles and then sun cycles. When the sun cycle is in, like it is now, it then transitioned from the moon cycle that ended in February 5th, 1962. Then there's a 63-year window of transitioning from the moon cycle powers, which is where moon cycle is where saviorism comes in. And I'm talking about the forces of nature itself causes the programmers and controllers, which is the planets and the spirits that control people, that gives up personal responsibility to the few. When the sun cycle is in, the positive forces then makes the people have more self-accountability, as well as the governments, but it's more of people being able to take care of things as a group, and the government is not so wacky.
Yes.
All right, so when the moon cycle came in, religion came with it, because you're talking about before religion as we know it, which is what you go back to starting of Rome, and then you start seeing them getting away from pantheism, which is the worship of a bunch of gods. It took them all the way to 325 AD and those other Nicene councils to conglomerate all of the power of the gods into one. This is what happened with, like, when you have monarchs and kings. It's now it goes into the reverse when they got to America. So the first 4,000 years, if you go all the way back to 6,000 years ago, before 1962, it'll take you into the year 4038 BC. So when you start from there, the first 4,000 years, I think it's a little, the first 4,000 years, it took the negative forces to take all of the power of all the gods and then slam them into one name, like religion. Religion was that. When you talk about Yahweh, Yah means good, Way means evil, Elohim really means the planets, but it also means the gods. So they slammed all this stuff into, it went from Elohim to El and Elo, and they start making these, they start crunching these into one person. That's what mono means, one. So
yes.
Pan
was a Canaanite deity prior to the Yahweh thing,
right? And the Canaanites are the Phoenicians, which is people like the Arabs, Latinos, Palestinians. These are different groups of Phoenician races that used to be the ones that sailed across the seas, the Moors, because we was there first and then we taught them. But that's a different conversation. So those first 4,000 years of pantheism, whether it was in Kemet, whether it was in Canaan, whatever the case was, the world back then 6,000 years ago worshiped a whole bunch of gods. But when religion came into being, and again for the Caucasian race to be able to soar as world power for them, it took for the first 4,000 years of their 6,000 year time to rule as a race to get put into mono. And so all of the gods that the Romans and the Greeks was into, it was a bunch of them. But then you get down to Rome after Greece lost and Rome came up in power, and then you start seeing it went from Roman rulers to then what? The Pope. Now you start getting the religious king powers, and they all consolidated that power into one person. So once you get down into like America, what they did was took the power from one politically and started creating a whole bunch of them, because they claimed that they was trying to split the power, how Europe had it where one person had all the power, till they broke it up into different branches of the government. But what the negative forces did by them doing that was just infiltrated them with secret societies, and they still being controlled to doing what a small group wants regardless. So it worked for a while, but again, like they say, if you look all the way back to, George Washington, all of these cats were Masons. And so they still were being controlled by magic as well. It ain't just, y'all going to a fraternity and all. It's way bigger than that. But politically, all of these people, and I'm speaking for American government, all of these people still are religiously connected because their government and the ruling cycle and forces for them is religion. And the Bible is what they swear on, even though a lot of them are doing negative works following something totally different or somewhat opposite to the Bible. But that's the core. So you can't.
Well, don't some of them swear on the Masonic Bible as well?
Yeah, but they ain't swearing in public doing that though. Like when they become, public officials, when they go out there and they put up their hand, they using a basic King James version, or sometimes they swear on an older Bible of a certain president. They do that too, but secretly these people having another agenda, which is the negative side, or the negative side of religion. And since Christianity is the religion of Caucasian people in general, because when you start going into, that's what I'm working on now. If you look at some of the videos I put out, as far as, especially with the historical Jesus, it's like 5 of those. It's showing you how where the word Christ and stuff come from, and the stuff I'm working on now. When I put that out, it goes even more deeper based on the writings of Afro Unu as Amanubi Rakapata back in the 60s, and then Afro Unu from the 70s on to his passing in 2011. So he breaks down how the word Christ, and only people that can be true Christians by nature is white people. And so I'm breaking all this stuff down, tracing the words back so people can see that. But
give us, before you move on, give us a little ski taste of how only white people can be Christians.
Because when you look up the word Christ, I think the prefix is Christos, and that Christos you get pink and white and stuff like that. And then when I
thought Christos was oil.
No. Christos, which is I'm talking about Greek. The oil, that's when you start going into Messiah, because they took the word Messiah from the Egyptian Kemet word Mesa. That's crocodile oil. But all that stuff goes into an individual that I was saying about Caesar and Ptolemy. But when you start talking about Christ, Christos, and how Ghost, and when they talk about the Holy Ghost in the New Testament, they talk about the spirit powers that we call three ether in Noon science. In science, Caucasian science, they call them ghost neutrinos, which come from the sun. Osiris came from the sun because the sun died, what we call as six ether died scientifically because it's been producing six ether in for almost 18 million years, and gamma radiation, those energies, what they call deteriorations. When you start looking into the energies of the sun, that energy is deteriorating. So the brain newts, or the gods that keep the suns around the universes alive, and not, they don't allow them to go under a certain temperature, so they keep reproducing and regenerating those six ether brain newts that melt down into the heat. But what happens is, after a certain amount of millions of years, a portion of the sun starts to decompose, and the attraction and the gravity and the weight that the sun usually puts out, a part of the sun doesn't do that, and that they call those ghost neutrinos. Those leave the sun, and they're here in a couple of seconds from the time they come from the sun, and they don't stick to nothing, and they pass through everything except almost lead, and they're ghost and white. What you were saying?
So those neutrinos, as the science would call them, does that just literally just pass through? Where did it just go right through this plane of existence and then go elsewhere to another?
Well, no, they some of them pass through the earth, but they can't. It ain't like they pass through the earth and keep going. They'll pass through all these objects, and lead is the only thing they have a problem with. But at the same time, these ghost neutrinos, and I got videos further back on my YouTube. Matter of fact, if people go back to when I came back to YouTube in April 2022, when I did a video, 2-3 videos with Remiel Ma'at, when that thing with Nature Boy, before he got arrested.
Okay. Yes.
Right. So I broke down the three God, which was really three gods involved in that, and I showed you how to identify them, which we identify them in Noon, that these are really gods. But Osiris came from the sun by way of six ether deteriorating at a point, and those neutrinos ended up coming to the earth, and they ended up being a part of, they only went so far in the ground, and then they became like methane and all this other stuff. So Osiris, that's why they call him a solar god, but he's a part of the earth because he's no longer a part of the sun. The sun emitted him and Isis out of itself as a solar deity, but then the neutrinos lack that magnetism to latch on, and it has no heat. So that's why he became known as a part of Geb, or the son of Geb, which is the earth. So we talking about scientifically, ghost neutrinos is what you would call that. So if you want to know what Osiris is and composed of, ghost neutrinos, it explains it. I got a couple of videos that I did. Me and Anu did some back then. This is like 6, 7, 8 videos, and I expounded on the scientific aspect of that. So Osiris, Isis, these are ghost neutrinos, and they ended up being logged in the Bible as the Holy Spirit, but it's spirits or conscious gases. So what they did is they took the same way they took all the gods and put them into one like God. They did the same thing with spirits. They just put them into one, because that's
Sorry, apologies, Sidney. What was the significance of the color green for Osiris?
Because the sun emits gamma radiation, and that's the primary power that keeps existence going in the bottom half is gamma radiation. So that gamma is, like we call in Noon, the life of death. The Caucasian calls it evolutionary radiation. That's what in the writings of your guy, what his name, that dealt with evolution?
The British fella and his grandfather. Oh God, my mind's gone blank.
The guy,
Charles Darwin.
Yeah. And Charles Darwin writing a portion of that they identified that light or that heat and the energy coming from the sun. They call it evolutionary radiation, and that's the part that caused things to mutate over the millions of years, because the earth produced certain things from her eggs out of her at the time when gamma radiation came in 18 million years ago, and it mutated everything over millions of years. The original dolphins, the original alligators, the original whales, all of those things don't look like they do now, because gamma radiation is a mutating energy. And when you study gamma radiation and its effect on life on the planet, the scientists was able to see that. And that's why they use that, because that's the driving force of evolution, is gamma radiation, or evolutionary radiation. That's what they call it. It's not even that deep. But again, negative forces get in and they try to push it more on, Darwin and them don't believe in God. And again, when you start playing, see, religion traps you. See, they keep saying God, but it's a plural, because it's plural powers. So the sun is a god because it does what it does. The earth is a goddess. She does what she does. She has her own powers. You understand? Just like the rest of these planets. But because the moon cycle made most people weak mentally, morally, and spiritually, and then these negative forces use human beings to take away our ability to reason. We lost that, and because we lost that, it's another reason why it's hard for us to be able to function like we have functioned over these years. We just got dumber and dumber and dumber, but it was a scientific explanation and reason for that. And again, for the Caucasian to take his place in the sun under the moon's protection, man plus us and people who existed before them had to fall up under them, because that was the time and cycle and season for these things to take place. And this is where we at right now. So again, back to the original point, the government and religion are one and the same, but in America they play the game that religion is separate from state, and they had to do that because if the politicians who've been doing all this foolishness is saying, yeah, I'm a Christian and I follow this like they really, really, really do, then people would know that these folks are evil. So they have to pretend that, God, again, is not a personal name, it's a title. In Noon, a God is a boss with supernatural powers. That's all the word God means when you talking about explaining what that word represents and stand for. But on the other end, God still means ghost, and that deals with ghost God and all that stuff that comes with that. But on a basic level, all of these people are religious. It don't matter if they into Satanism. Satan is presented like religion. There's only one God. You got plenty demons and all of that, but in Satanism, Satan or Lucifer is the top god. So religion is the same thing. They in the Bible acknowledge other gods, and they have to be gods. If you got a law in your book that says thou shalt not worship any other gods, and if you're saying there is no other god but God, then why would God call them gods if they're not gods? The same way the mental problems that we have, where we call people who claim to be women when biologically and physically they're not. But so why would you call something that is not, when you really have the evidence of it? And what people are trying to do is because they feel a certain way, because the spirit in their DNA and everything is manipulating them to cause problems in the physical world. It's true. You got some people who have these energies that are in the wrong bodies, but it was purposely designed by that for the cycle and season. So nature, the negative side of nature, will take a female spirit or a hermaphrodite spirit or hermaphrodite, because hermaphrodite, he is a spirit that's more masculine than female, and a hermaphrodite spirit is more female than masculine. And then you would take those and place those spirits in men and women, and they will feel that they are not in the right body. That's because of the spirit factor. But they don't understand that when you start going into psychology, the word psych psyche or psycho in psychology is the Greek word for spirit. So when people start, when you go to a psychologist and you start telling about ghosts, they're gonna say, "Oh, that's not true." It's a psychological word for that. But the practice you named that you went to school for the years, it deals with the spirit. So it's so much reverse information and mentality. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you're 100% correct. It's like an inversion.
Right.
Reality is inverted, especially with what we think the norm is.
Right, and this is why when you look at the symbols that we wear, we have the N is when things are right side up. Now in the back of my hat is the Z, which is the 180 degrees different and opposite to Nupu. And that's why these things are like this all around the world. That's why you look at what people do here, whether, let's say, take relationships. You'll see, and I see this online all the time, because this is the opposite of the people who done got to the last degree of reasonability between relationship between male and female. Not they'll have guys, whether it's Andrew Tate or whoever, you got all these people is now saying the dumbness because we done hit rock bottom. So now these conversations are here that, good, especially with the feminism. The feminism don't realize that the transgenderism then is basically damn near replace them, because y'all can't keep scapegoating men and saying men is this, men is that, and then you got these people saying pronouns, you can't call me this, you can't, and that's taking more precedence over everything else. But my point is this: the same thing we came up when we realized you got good women don't want to choose good men, they choose bad men and get abused by them, and they think that that's the way to go. See, that's the opposite. These are the effects of the moon cycle. You understand? The reverse. So every time you look around, you'll see that everywhere you